The car guy life. Motors in, motors out, motors in, motors out, motors in.
I was raised on cracked concrete and prayers came too late. Learned how to read a man's eyes before I learned how to hate. They said I wouldn't make it.
I know you guys have done this, and I'm guilty of it too. You finish a car, you get it running and driving, you're enjoying it, and it's a catastrophic failure, say engine or whatever. Say it got crashed, engine damage, suspension, and it just kind of like a kick to the nuts. And so you just push the car off to the side because you're all, butthurt about it. Well, this would be that car to me. It was my dad's car, 67 Chevelle Malibu. It was originally just 283 Power Glide AC, column shift. Nothing too wazoo car, but it was my dad's car. I took the original 283 and we hopped it up. We threw some aluminum heads on it, put a small cam in it, made it to where that 283 was probably going to make like 250 horsepower. And I know that's not like earth shattering. It's not going to rotate the earth off its axis, but it's still way better than it was stock. And it was just going to be a fun little cruiser that I was going to give to my sister. So the that was a long time ago, and it's still sitting here. So after my sister being in one ear and buddies being in the other, and followers being like, hey, you ever gonna finish that thing? And I'm like, I finally drug it out. This here is a 350 Vortex engine. This is what I'm going to be putting into my dad's Chevelle. The original 283 had done catastrophic failure and exploded in like a Days of Thunder style explosion. Sparks and smoke and steam went everywhere. The brand new out-of-the-box aluminum heads had dropped a valve and exploded the engine. So that's when it got pulled and parked. I sold some Roadrunner stuff to a guy, and he brought me this engine. He had seen the episode where the Chevelle had exploded, and he graciously donated. Well, I kind of traded him. Yeah, I traded him some stuff for this engine, and it's just a, not high mileage Vortec, but let's just say it's 100,000 mile Vortec 350. I tore it apart, flipped it upside down. Bearings looked perfectly fine. Didn't even change them. They were actually really good. Resealed it, put a new, it's like stage 1 roller cam in it because it's a roller engine. Put new lifters, new seals, new valve springs. Just re-gasketed it and converted it to a carburetor. And then I modified a couple brackets, like this bracket here, had to modify it because the balancer on a Vortec 350 is like twice the size of a 283 and it wouldn't fit. I think I had to do some, I had to lengthen this guy here because this bolt, oh yeah, I see we're gonna have to put a plug in there, so we're gonna pull that back off. Anyways, put the engine together, painted it, and now I have something that should at least make more horsey powers than the 283. Is it still going to rotate the earth? No. Is it going to make 300 horsepower? Probably. But I know it is going to fit in my Chevelle. Or sister's Chevelle. Technically it's hers now. Well, I have delayed long enough. Let's get this car up in the air, get the engine off the stand, and plop it in the car, do all the bracketry and the tweakings and get everything hooked up and back to running condition and make these tires rotate again. Let's open up. All right, I yanked a small block Chevy out of this car. Should be easy to put a small block Chevy in the car. All right, Derek, do your spiritual jujitsu on this motor to make sure nothing happens to it. You're good. think a little bit of wiggle in here will make it fall in place. Try and push the engine backwards from the top.
So go towards you?
Backwards. Backwards.
Alright, the opposite of you.
Yeah, the opposite of front.
Alright, I'm going backward.
Nope, nope. Derek.
You said to go the opposite of you.
I said backwards. And I said push the engine.
I did push the engine.
You pulled the cherry picker. How is that the same as pushing the engine? Anyways, jack the transmission up. Let's do this all over again. Okay, yeah, we're in the dowels. All right, so now we can actually bolt the block to the transmission and we can set the engine down on the motor mounts.
All right.
Cool. It's the next day and nothing too exciting. I mean, we're putting a small block Chevy in a Chevy. You know, they kind of just fall in place when you have someone pushing the engine the right direction. But eventually it falls in place and you just started connecting things and bolting things up. Really, the only customizations I've had to do so far and still have to do is I went ahead and quickly cut the bracket off of my dipstick tube and re-welded it. The intake manifold was impeding the tube from going into the bell housing bolt. Also, the dipstick tube for the engine oil is interfering with the AC bracket and yeah, the AC bracket. So I'm gonna have to modify that a little bit. But other than that, you know, connect the dots, hook up the bowls, hook up the power steering hoses, but just chipping away and making progress on my dad's old 67 Malibu with 67 more cubes now. This thing got a different starter. Ow, got a fucking thing pinched me. Ah, that starter won't work. Damn it. Ugh. So obviously a 283 and a 350 Vortec have different starters. This starter was on my dad's circle track car, so we might as well just flop it on over to this one. It looks like it's got two different bolt patterns. Oh yeah, that'll work. Okay, so I think this guy will work. Put it right there. Let me mock up my compressor hoses here so I can figure out the angle of the dangle. I don't want to stick it up like a freaking freight train, but I think we're going to put it like so. So now I just need to modify this guy, which I think is going to be no problemo. Ooh, now it does look like a choo-choo train. Ah, coffee. Gonna get a good start, get all caffeinated to start the day and make some progress on my dad's 67 Chevelle. I visited my buddies at SoCal Speed Shop yesterday, the local speed shop, and I got some goodies. So this car was not an SS, it was more of your baseline car, so it didn't have actual gauges in it for the vitals of the engine. It just had dummy lights. So it'll have a light that would come on the dash, just a red light for, hey dummy, you have no oil pressure, or hey dummy, it's hot. Well, since this car is going to go to my sister, she's not exactly car smart, so we have to make the car dummy proof. So it'll have dummy gauges and it will have actual vital gauges. So this is just a cheapy auto gauge electric setup. We're going to install this in the car. I mean, I've got extra orifices on the engine. I might as well fill them with sensors. So we'll just put this under the dash, and at least that way, if I ask her, hey, how much oil pressure does that engine have? she'll be able to tell me. Also, I got this. Yeah, it's empty because I already test fitted it. This intake manifold is a spread bore. Well, my carburetor is a square bore, which means all 4 butterflies are the same size, which is a square pattern. Hence, square. Now, that carburetor will not bolt. It will bolt right to this, but you'll have air leaks. So this has a wider sheet metal flange that will solve that for us. So then we can, oh man, I trapped myself. There we go, fixed. So now my carburetor can adapt right to the intake manifold. But I can't bolt it on just yet. There's a few things I need to do. I am going to flip my valve covers because I want the PVC over here and I want the oil fill up front so it's easier to change the oil. Also, I need to add some vacuum fittings to distribute vacuum to the booster, to the module on the kick down for the transmission, and also for PVC. This is where this would have gone, but it will not work there with a Holly. So I had to remove that, and we're going to put, say, this guy, we're going to drill and tap right there, and I'm going to put another fitting on the other side, which is going to run the transmission kick down. I started having a dilemma, which led me to thinking, how can I get around drilling the intake manifold? It's just going to look tacky. And so I was like, well, I'll just run a 1/2-inch carver spacer. And I threw it on there, and I'm like, you know what? With the original fitting that was here, the T-fitting, that would work, that would clear it. But then my mind got to spinning again, and I'm like, well, that's gonna take away low-end torque. Not a lot, but you know, a little. And this is a power glide car. This has 1 and 2 gears. It has no more than that, and it has a tall rear gear. And it's gonna be my sister just daily driving, and she lives in the mountain ranges, so she'll pull out of the driveway and have to go up grades. And so I was like, you know what, this thing needs to make maximums low-end torques. So I'm like, all right, we're gonna do away with the spacer because that will make it into an open spacer. Yes, I could have went and got a 4-hole spacer, but then I would have to go buy studs and buy a 4-hole spacer. And I was like, how can I do this cheaply and not have to go out and buy more stuff today? I figured it out. So I took the original T-fitting that was here, re-drilled holes that was lower, and then welded up the top, capped it off, ground it down, cut the threads shorter, re-tapped that slightly larger, so then this guy would sit lower on the intake manifold. So we'll screw this guy in right there. Ugh. Now my carburetor will sit flush over that. Problems solved. Well, now that that issue is fixed, carburetor is bolted on, all the plumbing for the vacuums needed is handled. I just want to switch the valve covers so that way this is up here and my PVC is right there, so we just go bloop bloop and call it done on that. Then we can proceed to other things making this thing run and drive. Oh, come on. Ah. Cool. I do like these center bolt valve covers though. So much easier to take on and off. And an even load on the gasket. Get 'em, Bolt. Don't take no shit from nobody. 2 things before dropping the distributor in. I need to get the engine at top dead center on number 1 on the compression stroke, which is basically I just stick my finger in the number 1 spark plug hole. If I can find it, there it is. Bump, suction, suction. Oh, that big old poof, that's the compression stroke. right. That should be pretty, yep, okay. So that is the compression stroke, and my timing marker is dang near at 0 on the timing indicator. Now, before I put the distributor in, we're gonna put oil in it and prime it. Drink up, little 350. Drink up. A lot of you guys probably think I've only got Chrysler tools to work on engines. You would be wrong, in fact. I have got a lot of Chevy specific tools as well, because a lot of my race cars were Chevys. When I was younger, in my teens, 20s, I raced circle track Chevy engines. So therefore I have some old tools. This is one I had made a long time ago. Notice the welds are not as good. That was because I was probably a teenager, and it still works and I still have it, so I still use it. We're going to prime this engine up, build oil pressure before we actually try and start it. That way everything is pre-lubed. In she goes to drive the oil pump. There we go. It has oil pressure. Now, some of you might not know this. Maybe my Mopar guys don't know this. I'm sure all the Chevy guys do. But these two O-rings that are on the distributor are pretty important. They is what primes the distributor with oil, so it doesn't seize up inside the shaft. Also, if those O-rings were not there, you're going to lose oil pressure, because whenever you, if those O-rings were not there, that would be more oil leakage around the distributor. And when you have more leakage, you have less pressure. So a lot of the original distributors, that was just a tighter tolerance, and so, you know, there wasn't as much oil leakage. But when you get into like the racing stuff or performance or aftermarket, if you forget to put those O-rings on, you will in fact lose oil pressure. I knows this, I've experienced it. Now we can stab it in. The whole reason for getting that engine at top dead center on number 1 is so we can get the rotor phased to number 1. It just makes it easier when you're installing plug wires, setting up initial timing. I mean, it doesn't have to be phased. It can literally be dropped in anywhere. As long as you have your firing order correct, it'll be fine. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of a thing to do. Like, you don't have to, but just do it. So that way, anytime you pop the cap off, you know the firing order just by looking at the rotor. Now, the shaft that drives the oil pump, which the distributor also drives at, you notice there's a slot in there. Well, that's got to line up with the oil pump. And when you're trying to phase the rotor and get the distributor clocked in the way you want it, kind of a trick is just get the rotor phased and then lift it up in the air and see kind of the placement that the slot needs to be in, and then just take a long screwdriver and kind of eyeball it down in there and position the slot to match that. That way you don't have to rotate clock, rotate till it finally drops in, or bump the engine over. Bumping the engine over is pretty good too, but I don't know, it's just one thing I like to do. Boom. Fell right in because I had everything pre-set up. And boom, number one, double boomage. See, I don't know about you guys, but I always like to get my gauge clusters all wired up, so then I can just tie in the few pigtails I need to the car instead of being all underneath it and trying to hook everything up. Nah, try and get all your wiring done here to where you can sometimes just plug it in there. Alright, the cluster is all wired up. I can get this guy bolted in place, and then I can start running my sensor wiring from the engine back. because it's just simpler to do it like that way, I think. But I also need to plumb my sensors too. So I'm gonna go ahead and get on that right now. It is the next day. I didn't do a whole lot. I did, however, get my sensors hooked up. I got my wires routed and got them through the loom on the firewall, and even got them started into the firewall, as you can see right there. Now I can start mounting the gauge cluster pod doohickey and get that all finished up. Then I can move on to finishing installing the cooling system and finishing the fuel system, because as you know, it is now going to be electric fuel pump, not mechanical. If just by chance the bulb is blown out for the dummy light, well, now you have no idea if the oil pressure, water temp, or alternator doesn't work. At least now there will be vitals that my engine can monitor, or that my sister can monitor all the time. And if she calls me and says, hey, I think something's wrong, and I tell her, hey, are all the gauges in the green? And she says yes, I'll be like, you're fine. So that is why I'm going to drill 2 holes and mount this to the dash, for simplicity.
Not as camera genetic as you are.
Camera genetic.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly a pretty looking mofo either, Leonard.
Well,
If you were wondering who the big bald guy was that was just left the scene, that was Leonard.
You look a little scruffy, but
He has the Hellcat 68 Charger I built several years ago. He's camera shy. But it's always fun when you have your car buddies show up and hang out for a little while.
It's because it's not really camera material.
Camera material, there you go. Well, I'm going to finish getting the fan bolted up, stick the shroud over the fan, and drop the radiator in. So then we can proceed to mounting hoses and put coolant in it. Because now that all my sensors are on, I can put coolant in it without it running everywhere. Action, Leonard. Beautiful. Gonna make you a movie star, Leonard.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Go. That corner in first. There you go. Hey, one second. All right, go ahead. Cool. Well, getting a late start in today, and I need to figure out where to mount my external fuel pump. Trying to keep the cost down low instead of getting a whole in-tank set up and having to regulate it down from EFI to carbureted. That just, the numbers in my head, that's going to tell me about $750 to $800 versus going to use this externally mounted fuel pump that I got from Napa. Supposedly these ones are pretty quiet, unlike the old school pumps. It's just like "Mah!" that you hear on the frame rails. So gonna bushing this guy up and figure out how to mount it. But this is a pusher pump, so I need to have it as low as I can, so that way it doesn't have to draw on the fuel very hard. It really just has to push. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to do this, and it needs to be about right here, but obviously there's nothing to mount to, so I'm going to need to modify or make a new bracket so this thing gets the correct droopage and correct suckage and pushage all together. Kind of eyeballing what kind of bracket I'm going to have to make, what I'm willing to spend as much time on, and what materials I have to make it out of. I have finished my drop-down bracket. It's even painted and everything. So this is going to put the fuel pump just like, oh, maybe an inch or two below the very bottom of the tank, but high enough to where you won't be able to see it, because that would be pretty ugly. I hate it when you can see the pumps on the frame rails or below. It's just ugliness. So this should work out pretty good, and now I can bolt it in place and try and make progress. There's been a whole lot of time spent wasted today on figuring things out. It's like one of those times where you just stare at the car and go, like, mentally you're dissecting the car and figuring it out in your head, but there's really no work getting done. I know you guys have been there. Oh, why is it gotta be so cold in the mornings? I guess I can't complain too much. But even 50 degrees is cold to me. Don't like it. I hope there's not a whole lot of gas in this right now. Oh, come on. Oh, I think we're safe. Okay. Nothing came spilling out. Alright, I got my return welded on there, which was not very easy because the nipple that's on here, the main shaft is like soldered to the base, and of course the soldering melted, so I had to like solder it again. Hopefully there's no leaks, but now I can slap it back in and hope there's no leaks. It's like 2 days later. Yesterday I did a bunch of little things to the car, but didn't really film any of it. You know, running the fuel pump wire from the dash to the back, which I still need to tidy that up. It's just kind of dangling there, but it's all loomed, it's run. The dash is all wired up, my gauges, the fuel pump. I added my new oil pressure switch, which that one is going to turn the fuel pump on when it sees oil pressure, about 5 pounds. And then this switch is what runs the dummy light. So we got 2 oil pressure switches. I tried to use the dummy light switch, but being it works in reverse to where it activates the light when there's no oil pressure, when I was trying to use that, it wasn't working good with the bypass switch I wanted to put in there. Now I have my bypass switch. So say the car's been sitting for months. You know, the bowls are empty, which here in Las Vegas, if a car sits for months, the bowls are completely empty. There's no fuel in them. So instead of sitting there cranking and cranking and cranking and cranking, which you would have to do with a mechanical fuel pump anyway, this way, ignition on, bypass switch. Oh, I ruined my scene by not having the battery hooked up. I was like, wait, what is wrong here? Now you will see fuel pressure. It gets to 6 pounds. I had to take out the nitrous jet restrictor that was in the return line because it was getting like 9 pounds, and I'm like, this thing doesn't need 9 pounds. But don't you just hate electric fuel pumps? Just, I thought this was gonna be quieter than this. So annoying. But I'm sure when the engine fires, it's going to drown that out. So hopefully we'll hear more engine and exhaust and less. Let's see. Is the accelerator pumping? It is. Now the fuel that's in this is a year old. I really shouldn't be running on it. Should have drained it, but we're just gonna burn it out. I put some marine stabilizer in it, so I don't have to worry about sticking any valves or anything. Well, I need to top it off, and I think we can go ahead and start firing this thing up. Just like all first fires, this thing's probably gonna clatter for a second till it builds oil pressure, or fills the lifters and gets all the air out of the system. Because believe it or not, there is air in the oiling system, so it'll push it all out. That is all good. We're going to raise the throttle blades just a little bit just to get it to fire up. So we'll go, you know, quarter turn from where it was before. Wherever this carburetor was at when it was on the 283, it's quarter turn more now. I went ahead and just clocked the distributor just a little, so we know it rotates this direction, and we know I had it aimed perfectly at number 1. So I just went ahead and put, like, I'm assuming 15-20 degrees of timing into it to start, and we're just gonna go ahead and hit it and see what it does. Fire up an idle. Ugh. It's cold. Come on. Okay, oil pressure. Wow, that's really high. The alternator is charging. Oh, the tack is working. That's good. Nothing all that thrilling. It's pretty much a stock small block Chevy with a itty bitty cam. Vortec small block Chevy. Right on. We just need to let this thing burn out all that old gas. How's the exhaust? You know, the fuel pump is not as bad now. Now that there's a lot of ambient noise of combustion engine happening, the fuel pump is not as noisy. Like, hold. Okay, standing here, can't really hear it anymore, because now I hear more internal combustion. Man, the old gas that's coming out of this thing reeks. I'm gonna smell like old gas all day. I have dumped the old varnish nasty gas after it, you know, already made me stink real bad. Went and put some new gas in it. I had 5 gallons of basically weed killer now. It fires up and runs really good. Just some minor tweaking to the carburetor, got the timing all dialed in. Everything is pretty good except for the snap. Let me show you. I mean, look at our vacuum. We are really good. It runs and purrs and sounds good, like stage 0.5 camshaft probably. blowing all the carbon out of the exhaust from it running before. So let me show you what I'm talking about. I already pulled the pump shot. It's not a pump shot issue. It's getting plenty of pump shot. It's got the pink cam in it, which is the accelerator cam, which is right behind the throttle shaft. Pink is like second from the smallest, and it has a 31 pump shot. And on a stock engine, well, mostly stock, that's plenty. It's fine. This is where we're getting at. You can see it's pumping. There's just not enough. My thinking is that it has too low of a power valve in it. I'm thinking it might have like a 6.5 or something in it, and we might need to go up on power valve so that way that that fuel enrichment comes in sooner. It's like behind the curve instead of being with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the power valve out and see what is in it. Because with the 283 and the cam that was in it, I probably had to change that. I'll have to see. I don't remember what is all in it. Okay. Oh yeah, it's got a 6.5 in it. So we definitely need to go up on that. This probably needs to be like an 8.5. Because even in drive, sitting at a stoplight, this thing still has like, I want to say 19, 18 inches of vacuum. So a 6.5 is way too small. We need to go up to, I'm going to say like an 8.5 or a 9.5. And that is just at what vacuum the power valve opens and allows more fuel to enrich. And ooh, we got some little bit of nasties in there, but nothing crazy. So my theory was correct. And just to make sure, I also blew out the jets that are inside here. See, if you want to, a good thing to do is to go down on main jet and go up on power valve, so that way you can cruise leaner, conserve fuel, save the lifespan of the plugs, it won't wash out the cylinders as much, and then you just use the power valve to enrich the primaries when you really need it to. So I need to put the O2 gauge on it and see where this thing is at, but I'm not going to change these at the moment because I do not know, but I do know it needs a higher vacuum power valve. Well, that sounds way better, but I think I might have went a little bit too much. I only had a 10.5. I was kind of looking for a 9.5. So 10.5 will probably be fine though. Let me just double check at what vacuum it is in gear. I could have swore it was like, could have swore it was like 18 or 19. Rule of thumb is in gear, you want the vacuum power valve to enrich in at about half the vacuum of what it is in gear. So let's see. So we are at about, I want to say 18 and a half, 19. So yeah, that 9.5 would have been perfect. But it's still not bad. To get it even better, now this thing hasn't even hit the ground yet and I'm already just rev tuning it. You know, just by ear what I know it needs, so that way I don't have to dick around as much on the street with it. But I went from, where's that? Okay. I changed from the pink cam to the orange cam. See, this one has more of a, it doesn't ramp in as hard. The orange cam is basically like a pink cam, but reversed. It hits harder at first, but then levels off. The pink one is more progressive. The orange one comes in hard and then kind of levels off. And I found out that is what this engine wants. Every engine's different, but this engine wanted the orange one. Now with that higher number power valve, the 10.5 and the orange cam, listen to this. Oh yeah, race car. Yeah. Just those little tuning things you can do before you ever even drive it. Rev tuning, it is a thing. Because this engine is not some lightweight, high, fast revving engine, I mean, it's got a stock, heavy torque converter in it, stock piston, stock rods, heavy crank, 55-pound crankshaft. Sometimes they just need that little bit extra squirt when you initially crack the throttle, because there's a delay in trying to rev all of that ass, get it moving. So if you took all the mass out of this engine, put a lightweight converter on it, lightweight rods, lightweight pistons, lightweight crankshaft, but didn't change anything else, same cam, same head, same intake, same everything, this thing would have actually wanted less fuel because it gets to its RPM faster. It doesn't have that what? So just things you learn over time. All right, we are on like the home stretch on this old Chevelle, my dad's old Chevelle. It's going to my sister, so if it was me, I would just eliminate the chokes. I hate them. They're stupid. Where I don't want to live somewhere where I need to have something like that. So I usually just pump the throttle once, fire it up, and then I can just modulate the throttle for say 20, 30 seconds, and it's good. I can let off the throttle and it will idle. This car is actually going to be going to Georgia. It does get much colder there than it does here. Granted, it's not the coldest time of the day anymore, but I always set the spring pressure on the butterfly to where you just barely touch it and it'll open. You know, you can adjust it to where, heck, you can make it to where it has a ton of spring pressure if, you know, but I don't live in Antarctica. So we're gonna lighten it up to where you actually see it start to open up just like that. It's starting to open up. Well, I'm gonna close it, close it, close it, close it. Just get it to where it just kisses and stays shut. And that right there should be good because it's like 55 degrees right now. We don't even really need the choke, but I'm just trying to set it for when it does go down south. So then we'll tighten up our adjuster, which is basically just the plastic body that holds the clock spring. Choke engage. All right, that's set. That's set, so we should have slightly higher idle. Oh yeah, if you haven't noticed, Derek is here. Okay, now it has returned to full idle, and it has spring pressure on the opening side. So now it is forced open by the electric choke. Works correctly. God damn it, Derek. Bolt always ruining my scene. Well, remember at the beginning of this video where I was saying like this car just kind of kicked my ass? Well, unfortunately, Derek had an accident. It was an accident. It was a mistake. He just misjudged the block on the cross member and it crushed the oil pan. So the oil pan, the car fell on the jack and crushed it. Well, now I've got to fix that. So again, it was a mistake. I didn't get mad at Derek. It's, you know, shit happens. It's just, it sucks. So unfortunately, Derek couldn't come over today and assist me with his boo-boo. So I'm gonna go ahead and get a head start on this because I think the oil pan might be here today or tomorrow. And I'm going to attempt at trying to do this oil pan swap in the car. I don't know if I can or not. I don't work on these cars all the time. I've never done this on these cars. I'm assuming pull the fan, pull the shroud, motor mounts, exhaust, cherry pick the engine up high enough to where I can then drop the oil pan out. And hopefully I can just bend the pickup tube back down. I don't know. We will see. But I got to start throwing tools at this thing now. I just keep getting kicked in the nuts by the chevelle. I found antifreeze in the oil. Not a lot, but it was green. Oil is not green, typically. So I didn't build this motor. This was just a long block that I put an intake and cam in. So the only thing I can think of is maybe the O-ring style intake manifold gasket that's supposed to seal the block is not sealing like it's supposed to. So that's another thing I'm gonna have to do. Pull the intake, pull the distributor in reverse order of that, and probably like silicone the crap out of that thing to make sure it don't leak. Maybe this Chinese intake manifold has slightly different angle of the dangle on the intake manifold to head gasket surface or intake manifold to cylinder head surface, and it's not quite getting the correct sealage. I don't know. No, I'm not peeing. As I was draining the coolant, I had a thought. What if I just cinch down the intake manifold even tighter, because if there is a slight difference in angle from the intake manifold to the cylinder head, and that's what's creating the leak, there is a plastic gasket there with an O-ring on it. Maybe I can cinch the intake manifold down hard enough to where it will then seal, because I can still probably put like one turn in these bolts before they finally go kink. So I'm going to try that and actually save the coolant. I'm going to stop it from peeing. So try and do this evenly. See, we get, okay, I lied. We're going to get about 3/8 of a turn out of it. Maybe that is just enough for the intake to stop leaking. If it even is the intake. If there's a crack somewhere in this engine, like I don't know why this engine was pulled, but I'm hoping that it is just this intake manifold. Stupid Chevys. Well, I'm gonna have to undo the transmission and at least lift the engine straight up enough to get the pan out. Cannot get it out. You suck. Wow, that's really stuck on there. Ah, there we go, finally. Damn. Well, I better weld that pickup tube on, because it just rotated up and I was able to pull it down with ease. So that's definitely something that's going to have to get fixed. The car guy life. Motors out, motors in. Motors out, motors in. Motors out, motors in. Motors out, motors in. Calm down, calm down. The oil pan is here, so I can hopefully get the engine back in my dad's Chevelle for the last time. I've had engines in and out of this car many times. Hopefully this is the last one. Now I can't just take this oil pan. You know, this is the new one here. You can tell it's similar to the old one, just with less smushage. It doesn't have a a turtle waffle in the oil pan. This one is still flat. So this guy should work pretty good, and it's already orange. I actually bought it because it was already orange. I didn't, less work, it just bolted on. But now when the car fell on the oil pan, it bent this guy. Well, this is the pickup tube was just pressed in. And in the circle track world, when I was a rookie, I actually had one of those fall off and it cooked the engine because the engine could no longer suck oil. Well, this one here, we're gonna set it to the proper angle of the dangle and we're going to tack weld it to ensure that this guy will not fall off again. So we're going to measure the depth of the replacement oil pan, and then we're going to set this one like a 1/4 inch above the minimum depth, so that way any sediments or whatever hopefully won't get sucked up into the pickup tube. You don't want it on the very bottom, kind of like a gas tank. You know, you don't want the pickup tube to be on the very bottom sucking all the sediment up. So we'll go ahead and measure the depth of the oil pan, and we get 7.5. And then we're going to add 1/8 inch of oil pan gasket. So I'm gonna have the pickup tube set at 7 3/8 because 7.5 plus the 1/8 inch was 7 5/8. So then at 7 3/8 on the pickup tube, that gives me a 1/4 inch, which is what I want. Seven 3/8. 7 3/8. Don't give me any reason to have to pull you back out. Get all these things hooked up and get it to where it'll run again.
You don't have to like set the timing and all that.
No, the timing's already been set. I never took a distributor out, so. All right, Derek, we gonna have any issues?
No.
We got coolant, we got Earl, we got all our electrical hooked up, I think. Looks like it. The everything's in place, the motor's bolted down, exhaust is hooked up, starter. It is back in the car. Let's go ahead and see if this thing, it should fire up. Like I didn't change the timing, I haven't done anything like that. So should be able to hit the throttle once to set the choke. Let me go ahead and prime the bowls. Why is no bowls priming? I see it doing something. I can see the generator light, the alternator light. By turning the switch on, you can see it dim. Did this shitty electric fuel pump take a crap already? All right, hit it. What in the... Okay then. So I'm going to see if the fuel pump's going to work on the... Of course it should be working with the switch, but I'm going to see if it works when you're cranking, because it should hit the oil pressure switch. So go ahead and crank it.
Oh, I got to turn it on.
No, you don't need to turn it on.
Oh.
Just crank it. The fan is hitting the shroud. Go shut it off. Let me fix that damn shroud. All right, Derek, fire it up. Hopefully, no issues. good. Sounds pretty normal. What do you think, Derek? Our fuel pressure is good. Fuel pump is making fuel pump noises. Just runs so good. So before we get the hood all in my way and stuff and get the car on the ground, I just reminded myself that I bought the kickdown linkage for this car. It was missing it. I don't know if it was ever on there when my dad had it, or at one point he took it off, forgot to put it back on, or what. But kind of like a Mopar, there is a kickdown linkage, and this car was missing it. So I had eBayed this, and we're gonna bolt her on. Get it all proper like. No, I'm not trying to be a fashion model. Well, problems with the kickdown linkage, the factory kickdown linkage. When you install non-factory sensors that get in the way of the kickdown linkage, now I have to resolve those issues. So the oil pressure sensor that runs the aftermarket gauge that's down by the oil filter is in the way. This was not a big deal. I was able to just lift the coil a little bit and rotate the dummy light switch to the side, but gonna have to resolve a few issues on getting this thing bolted in here. I'll show you in a second when I'm all genius and got it figured out. Or see, it's hitting the oil pressure sensor. I'm gonna try and heat up the arm and bend it over, because I think it needs to anyway. It doesn't quite line up real good to the kickdown linkage on the transmission. So by bending that, I think it's going to fix two problems. We'll see what that does. I am genius! It worked. Torched up the top, torched up the bottom, twisted them to work, and now look at that. My entire shift linkage, or kickdown linkage, works as we, just flood the engine out. So now we're gonna go ahead and get everything hooked back up, get the air cleaner on it, and hopefully done.
Trying to get it lined up.
You just need to hold still. You ever ridden in this car, Derek?
No, I haven't.
I've driven it a handful of times as an adult, but never really any distance. I don't know. Let's see how engine number 3 does. Fire in the hull. Hopefully the headlights work. Ah, they do. Okay. Transmission engage. Thing is, isn't that electric fuel pump annoying? Can you, I mean, I'll have to see. Can you guys hear that? Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Wait. Oh, the e-brake works. Wow, these power brakes are good. Probably because this thing has like 20 something inches of vacuum. Oh yeah, there's no dome light. So it's gonna be very dark. But this is just the initial drive. We're just going around the block. We'll do another drive tomorrow. shift's good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's definitely peppier than the 283.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was only like quarter throttle. I think we're gonna need some more transmission fluid. When I made the corner, it decided to. The suction for the transmission fluid got unsucked. Oh yeah, it's got some pickup to it. Shit, it actually kicks down like it's supposed to too. This thing's actually not bad. This thing's got some freaking pep to it. You think it'll kick your truck's ass, Derek? With the same motor?
Vortex go faster than TVI, so.
How do we get the... Why is the dash lights not working now?
I don't know.
Oh wait, there it goes.
Oh.
Oh. Well, there they go. Alright, it's gonna need more transition slot. Yep. So we'll go down 2 more sizes on the transition slot. Wow, there's a lot of traffic. And this is why I want the hell out of here too. Yeah, it's got a little pull to the right. Are we running out of fuel? I think so.
I don't think we have the pump on. No, it's kind of.
You don't need the pump on.
I thought you did.
The oil pressure switch turns the pump on.
Okay, I see.
It's a good thing there's a gas station right here. Weird things. So we thought we were running out of gas like twice, when we in fact were not. Well, kinda. I have like half a PSI of fuel pressure. I'm thinking the reason the fuel pump was so loud before was that maybe the bypass valve inside the fuel pump that regulates the 8 PSI wasn't working correctly. And now all of a sudden it's working, and a lot of that fuel is bypassing to the tank. And so I'm gonna try and clamp my return line and see if that raises my fuel pressure. I might need to in fact put that nitrous jet back in the return line. There, line is clamped. I'm genius, I was right. Look. So now we have 10 PSI, which is too much. So I'm gonna put that nitrous jet back in the car on the return line, and that is going to resolve that. And the fuel pump is way quieter. So yes, whatever that valve is inside there that controls the fuel pressure was not working, because now the fuel pump is super quiet. So geniusness. What's up, everybody? It is a new day. It's a good day. The Chevelle runs and drives, and there's nothing leaking anymore. So I'm thinking we're all in the clear. I need to check the dipstick, and after today I'm going to crack the drain plug on the oil pan and see if there's any water in it. I'm hoping that was just the intake manifold, because I was able to get another half a turn of squishage out of the plastic O-ring Vortec intake manifold gasket. And this 350 Vortec motor runs way better, way stronger, way faster, way louder than that 283 was. Yeah, this is America. I'm not calling it 5.7. It's a 350. And today is tuning day. Like, some weird things were happening with the fuel pump when we actually took it out for a test drive. Like you saw, it had normal fuel pressure. It had, 7 to 8 pounds with no restrictor on the return line. And this is not a regulated fuel system. The fuel pump itself is supposed to be the regulator, which is leading me to think the fuel pump itself is bad. Because sometimes it would have really high fuel pressure, and then last night when we were on our test drive, we thought we were running out of gas, when in reality we weren't. Well, we were, but we weren't. We just had like 0 fuel pressure. We had flow, but no pressure. And what happens when you don't have pressure, it doesn't pop open the needle and seat for the float bowls. And a couple times I would shut it off, fire back up, and we'd have great fuel pressure. So I don't know. Where the fuel pressure is at right now, last night when I fired it up, it was 12. Now, as everything gets heated and all that, it's gonna drop a little bit. We're gonna see what we got. I have my O2 gauge hooked up. I got my vacuum gauge hooked up with the hose running down under the hood. Let's get this thing fired up and start the tuning process. It shouldn't be that far off. I tuned this when it was on the 283. I did change an air bleed last night because it felt like it would hiccup and starve for fuel just on the tip end. So I went 3 sizes smaller on the low speed air bleed. So you missed out on that tuning part. All right, now before we get into the nitty gritty of the driving tuning on the Chevelle, we gotta make sure our carburetor is set correctly. I've already done that, but let me just show you some things you wanna do in case you're encountering these problems. And here I have a mock-up carburetor. This thing's just a parts carburetor, but it will serve the purpose of what I need it to do right now. So this circuit right here, that is the idle circuit. That is where the fuel enrichment is going to come from while the blades are closed at idle. Below that, or I should say above that, is the transition slot. This is for when, just as I'm doing right here, when you start to tip into the throttle, it'll start to expose this slot right here, which that is where you get your secondary fuel enrichment. So throttle is closed, main enrichment here. As the throttle starts to open, that is where we get our enrichment right there. And that's like the tip in. That's like when you're just leaving the stoplight normal, you're not actually a lot of throttle, you're like 10% throttle, or you're just low speed cruising, or if you have really tall gears, that's your high speed cruising. And so you want to make sure that the throttle blade is set correctly, because if, say you have a big cammed engine or you don't have enough ignition timing in your engine, which I keep stressing to people, stop looking at the owner's manuals or the Chilton's book on what to set your timing at. These engines want a lot more timing than that. That was all smog bullshit related. You want timing. So minimum 15 degrees at idle with the vacuum line disconnected. Minimum. That's the lowest I would ever go. With vacuum hooked up, which is main vacuum, not ported vacuum, main vacuum, your engine will run so much freaking better. All right, back to the process. So if you're having to run your engine with more throttle blade opening, well, now you've got so much slot exposed. Well, now you're also getting fuel enrichment at idle from the transition slot. And then when you go to tip into the throttle, you have a major dead spot, because the circuit that is supposed to control that tip in, you're now using it for idle. You have completely eliminated one circuit, and now you have one circuit making up for another. So if you need more throttle opening to keep it idling, and you have your ignition timing good and everything is set correctly, but you still need more throttle blade opening, well, you're gonna have to drill a hole in your throttle blades. That will give the additional air without throwing away the fuel circuits and when they're supposed to tune. It's all timing related. The fuel circuits are supposed to tune at different positions of throttle, different timing sets. So what you want to do at idle is, with the throttle all the way closed, and at the engine RPM that you want to have your transition slot closed enough to where it's basically like a square. The slot is gone, and it's basically just a square that's exposed, which is about 40 thousandths. So get that set correctly, then you can get into tuning the engine. And once you fire it up, and say you're having to have your idle screws like 2.5 turns open, well, once they go past about 2 turns, there's no more metering. It's maxed out. You could 5 turns is the same as 2. So you want to keep it within, like I always keep it within under 1.5 turns. And if you have to go above that to keep the thing idling, that means you have way too big. Well, here, pretend this is the primary circuit. This is way easier since it doesn't have a choke. that means your low speed air bleed is too large. So there's way too much air getting emulsified with the fuel in the idle circuit. So you need to go to a smaller low speed air bleed. And that's a quick diagnostic on to determine if your air bleed is too small or too large. If your air bleed is too small, that means you've damn near got these things screwed in all the way. You got like a quarter turn out or eighth of turn out and it's still running. That means your low airspeed is too small. So usually between a half to 1.5 turns is where you want to be. If it's out of that range, you're either too small or too large on your low speed air bleeds. So let's jump into tuning my chevelle now. We'll go ahead and set the choke, 1 pump. Running still rich. The camera probably can't pick that up, but it's 11.0, 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, 10.9, and we're at 19 inches of vacuum. So we're gonna go ahead and lean that out just with the idle screws. Also, to show you this right now, fresh fire, cold in the morning, 11 pounds of fuel pressure. Now let's see how much that changes. Now this should be an inconsistent, there should be nothing changing in this fuel system. You have a fixed bleed, nothing should change. That should be the fuel pressure until you go wide open throttle, which creates 2 big leaks in the carburetor, creating horsepowers. But let's go ahead and lean this thing out real quick. See, you really want to keep your fuel pressure consistent too, because when the fuel pressure fluctuates up and down drastically, like the problem I'm having, that changes the float level. See, at 11 pounds, the float right now is about halfway in the bowl. Now, if that drops to 2 pounds, the float's going to drop way down because it doesn't require as much leverage from the float to shut the fuel pressure off. More pressure requires more leverage, which takes more fuel to get that leverage. All right, now we are at a pretty consistent 20.5 inches of vacuum and 11.5, 11.7, 11.8, 12.0 on the fuel, on the air fuel ratio. So we'll wait till it gets up to temperature and then we'll really start dialing it in. But what I've noticed already is because the fuel pressure is higher than it was last night at 2 pounds, I had to turn in the idle screws to lean it out. Float level also has to do with carburetor enrichment. If the float is higher, the carburetor will run richer. If the float is lower, the carburetor will run leaner. But we're talking, minuscule amounts, which I had to take a quarter turn out of each idle screw to get it to where it'll run good vacuum now. Because if the float is higher, the engine doesn't have to draw the fuel as far. If the float is lower, then the engine has to draw the fuel from a lower elevation in the carburetor, which it has to draw it up and then down into the carburetor, and it requires a stronger signal to do that. All right, we got some temperature in this thing now. Not a lot, but enough to where I can start doing some tuning on this thing. Now, my vacuum gauge reads about 2 inches high. I just noticed that. So it's showing 22 inches of vacuum. Well, we're gonna say it's 20. And if we look at our air fuel right now, we are pretty consistent 12.6, 12.7, 12.8, 12.6, 7, 8, it bounces back and forth slightly. Now the camera probably can't pick that up because of the whatever you want to call it, the speed rate of the camera. I'm not super technically in that, but I would like to see a GoPro guy tune a carburetor. Well, that is the air fuel that we have in neutral. Let's see what it is in gear now. All right, so in gear, we are a consistent 13.1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 12.9, 1301. So we're actually not too bad right there. The next test is we're gonna give it just a tip in on throttle. I mean, just a slight. Will you watch the tach? Look, now we're way lean. See, now we're in the 16s, which is way too lean. 15. So we are way too lean on the tip-in, which is the circuit that is controlling the transition slot. So we're gonna go down a couple sizes on the low-speed transition. We'll have to figure out what's in it first. I think I put a 68 in it last night, so I think we're gonna go down to a 65 and try that. Doing air bleed changes on a choke carburetor sucks, but there's a couple ways you can do it. You can do it with tape, or you can do it with grease. I've done it both ways. I actually prefer the tape method. The best tape to use is gaffer's tape. I don't have any right now. I have masking tape. So I take it, I fold it in half, and then I stick it on the screwdriver. And then I go take another piece and then wrap that. Now I have an adhesive screwdriver that will hold the jets in and out. Ta-da! Now to change these from 67s to, we'll go 64s. Well, I don't have 64s, I forgot, but I've got 65s. We'll go ahead and try that. I'll put my two 65s right there, and we'll go ahead and get those swapped out. Put the other one in right now to show you how simple it is. Stick it on there. And just like that, air bleed change done. Now, if you got an older carburetor that doesn't have the interchangeable air bleed jets, it's kind of a more of a pain in the ass because you have to drill them out. And then if you say you went too far, well, now you have to extract the pill and put in a blank and then re-drill it. Or you can just re-drill it and tap it so you can use these guys, which is way better. Because, you know, in tuning, sometimes there's mistakes where you went too far. Well, if you drilled it, there's no coming back. With these jets, you can go back and forth and upside down and left and right all you want. And if you accidentally drop a jet down the Venturi, don't panic. Don't pull the carburetor off and, you know, throw out all the swear words. No. See, what's nice about adhesive being all the way around the screwdriver is you can just stick the screwdriver down in there, touch the jet with it, and then pull it back out. I've had to do that many times. Now, if you have to enrich or lean out the idle screws just a little bit after doing an air bleed change on the low speed side, it's normal, because that low speed air bleed also feeds the idle circuit and the transition slot. So you might have to go up or down depending on what sizes you went to. There's only so much you can tune on a carburetor, so sometimes you have to give a little here to get a little there, but you can usually always find a nice happy median. All right, let this thing get all leveled out for a minute and smooth running, and then we'll get to tuning again. All right, so we're all leveled out. It's been running for a minute. You don't want to make changes right away. Sometimes, you know, the engine just has to level out, let it neutralize, and then make your change. So we're idling at, say, in gear at 12.6, 12.7 pretty consistently, which that can be leaned out. Now, I'm already only a half turn on the primary idle screws, and I'm only a quarter turn in the rear. What I'm thinking is I'm going to go leaner. I'm going to go to a larger air bleed on the secondaries for the low speed, which is going to lean out my idle circuit. And it'll also help in leaning out the cruising circuit as well. Let's see what it does when we tip in now. So we're going to start tipping in. So that would be about leaving a stoplight normal. And we're still a tick too lean. So 14.8, 15.0. And the more throttle we give it, the leaner it gets. So we actually need to go just a little bit smaller on that low speed air bleed up in the front. So we're going to go to larger in the back, which is going to lean out our idle. And then we're going to go smaller in the front, which is going to enrich our tip-in. So it's all these things you learn over time. Doing the secondaries is always so much easier because there's no stupid choke tower in the way. I never run chokes. So in the back we have 65s. So we're going to go ahead and go to 68s in the back. '63s up front. Okay, so right now we're right at that, 12.9, 13.0, 12.8, 13, there you go, just 13.0. And this thing is like super responsive now. Look at this. There's no hesitation, there's no nothing. Like, it's like it's fuel injected. This thing just wants to... See, when you can get a carburetor really tuned to the engine, and it will start to act like a fuel injected motor. This thing is super good. This thing should drive really nice. But see, all we've done was the idle and transition so far. Let's actually see what it is when I throttle up now. It's still in that leanish. But it recovers quick. You can actually see when it starts to grab the main jet. It'll go lean, 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 and then grab the main jet, and then it'll richen itself back up. But just for that initial tip in, I could actually go a little bit smaller than that. But for cruising purposes, I want to see where we're at right now. It's pretty responsive, like there's no lean spots, there's no dead spots. So I think we're pretty good. I think it's about time we go for a drive now. That lifter clatter is getting annoying. Like it's there, then it's gone, and then it's there, and then it's gone. All right, so look, low speed cruise, 13.4, 13.5, perfect. 20 inches of vacuum. I can already tell we might end up needing to go a little bit smaller on that low speed air bleed. I mean, this is a power glide car, so it's got a tall first gear in it. Yeah, we're gonna need to go just a little bit smaller on the low speed. But it already drives way better than it did. Yeah, see, we're just a little bit too lean. Right towards the end of the transition slot. So we'll go ahead a little bit smaller on that. But again, it's all driving stuff. You gotta drive it, see what it wants. Drive it, see what it wants. So we're gonna pull back into the driveway, and that was a very short test drive. But I kind of already knew it was gonna need it. I just wanted to see to what extent. See, now the lifter noise is gone. Annoying. That lifter clatter is also pretty annoying. I'm just gonna make sure that, none of the rockers had come loose or anything. Yeah, maybe that one a little bit. But the thread amount seems the same on all of them. Maybe I'll just do it all a quarter turn more. So, quarter, quarter, quarter. See, all the lifter noise is gone now? Super nice. All right, so we are at 12.2, 12.4 in neutral. Let's see where we are in gear. We are 12.5, 12.7. So we could actually lean it out just a tick, but let's see what it does now when I tip in. 13.8, 14.0. That is actually way better. And I am actually at 73 air bleeds in the rear and 61s in the front right now. Let's go take it for a drive. It is weird, the fuel pump gets quiet, then loud, then quiet, then loud. It's like the regulator inside of it is not working right. See, look, now our, cruise is 13.5, 14.0. Let's actually get it up to speed and see what it does. But our low speed is 13.0, 13.5, 13.0, which that's pretty good. So we'll go ahead and hit the main streets now. We are good enough at our idle and our low speed that we can hit the streets and get her up to about 45 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, and see how our cruise is at that point. That's going to determine if we need to go richer or leaner on our transition circuit, and then we can kind of start tipping into the main jet, see what that does. All right, so our 45 mile an hour cruise is about 13.8 to 14.0. We can actually enrich in that just a little bit. Actually, that's pretty good. All right, now the reason I have the vacuum gauge on this car is so I can also divide up two circuits between the power valve and the main jet. So I want to give it enough throttle before the power valve opens so I can see how the tuning is just on the main jet. So right now that is all main jet, and we are 12.5, 12.4, 11.5, 11. So we can actually go like maybe we can go a cup, like maybe one size smaller on main jet. But let me try it again just to verify. It's kind of hard to hold the camera, drive, and watch the gauges all at the same time. Tell you what though, just daily drive, I mean the throttle response is just, it's actually really good. It just cruises from stoplight to go, well, like a nicely tuned carbureted car. Low speed cruise is right there, 13.5. We just need to get our high speed cruise a little bit richer. All right, now let's check out the main jet again. So I got to keep it just above. We're 11.5, 11.6, 11.10, 11, yeah, so. So our wide open throttle with the secondaries is actually pretty good. It's 12.5. This thing actually has some pretty good scoot to it for a stock Vortec motor with a tiny little cam and a power glide. See, I'm having a problem now that the fuel pump is quiet. I'm almost wondering if I lost all my fuel pressure again, because now if I let off the throttle, it wants to die because it's so lean. Yep, see, there it goes. So I'm betting when I get back to the house that the fuel pressure is not 10 pounds anymore, which it shouldn't even be that high to begin with, but it's just something's funky with this fuel pump. Power! not bad. Yep, see now all of a sudden my AFR is leaner in neutral. So I'm betting, like right now we're 14.0, 14.5, you know, I bet the fuel pressure is way down. Let's check it out. I don't know what is going on with that thing. Just as I thought. 2. See, how do we go from 10 to 2 like that? Look, watch, I'll shut it off, fire it back up. Let's see what the fuel pressure is then. Now we're at 7.5 psi. What the hell is wrong with that thing? See, you'll find that drivability tuning is way more important than just wide open throttle, because you're going to be driving on the idle circuit and the transition slot circuit and the lower end of the main jet circuit 99% of the time. How often are you really wide open throttle? I know we like to brag, horsepower, wah! But in all reality, you're driving way more normal than you are wide open throttle. I started thinking about it and I was like, you know what, we're gonna go 69 jets. Because, you know, it was 11.5, 11.4. So to get it to go to 12.5 just on the main jet, I'm like, probably need to go 2 sizes. So unfortunately I didn't have any 69s. I have 68s. So we're gonna put 68s in it, and if it's slightly too lean, we'll just increase the signal of the jet with the high-speed air bleeds. So we're actually gonna touch an air bleed we haven't touched yet. But see how much tuning we have done, and we're just now getting to the jets? See, you're probably thinking, I thought you already had this carburetor tuned. Well, I did to a 283, which had entirely different signals and a bigger cam. This has like 67 more cubic inches, and it has a smaller cam. So it's gonna have a way stronger signal on those jets. So that explains why I'm having to go down on jet. Bigger cube, stronger signal, doesn't need as much jet to accomplish the same thing. Now we're at 10 psi. We could actually go a little bit smaller on the main jet as well. We're going fast. Well, we're going 72 miles an hour at 3,000 RPM. It's not bad. Yeah, we could go a little bit smaller on the main jet. We could probably go down to a 67. Dude, this thing just cruises, man. 70 miles an hour. Look, 70 miles an hour, 13.5, 13.7, 13.8. At 19 inches of vacuum. I don't know, you know what? I don't think I'll even change an actual jet. I'll probably just go a little bit on the air bleed, on the high-speed air bleed. This thing just cruises so nice. And then I'll tip into the throttle. So on the main jet, it's about 12.2, 12.3. Not bad. I don't know. May just leave it. Drives so nice. It does need more fuel on the high-speed cruise, which is just on the highway on the... Yeah. So it's like 13.7, 14.0 on the high-speed cruise, which if it was fuel injected, that would be okay. with being carbureted, it needs to be just a little bit richer because there's a slight bit of hesitation there. Cruising down the street in my 6.7. Oh yeah. Just a couple little more fine tweaks, it'd be good. It's got plenty of power. Okay, I went down 4 sizes on the secondary low-speed air blades, thinking that's going to enrich in the mixture just that little bit that I want at high-speed cruise. I don't think we're going to get really much more fuel out of the transition slot, even if I plugged them off. And actually, at low speed, it's pretty good. So I don't think we need to go any smaller on the front side. I just went a little bit smaller on the back side, and I'm thinking that might put us where we want, or that's really damn close. And as for the main jet, we can actually go a little bit leaner just on the main jet, but ever so slightly. I'm gonna pull an air bleed and see what the high-speed air bleed actually is. I'm thinking that was the last time I'm gonna have to touch it. This thing's pretty good. So I went up 3 sizes on the high-speed air bleed on the primary side, and I went down 4 sizes on the secondary low-speed air bleed, and that should fix my high-speed cruise, and that should lean out my main jet drive. So when you say you're having to go up a hill, it's not a big enough hill to where you got to open the power valve, but it's enough hill where you're on the main jet. So I'm thinking we should be good right here. Let's go test her out for the final time, hopefully. It's averaging about 13.3, 13.4 now. That is good for high-speed cruise. I'll take that. And wide open. About 12.8, 12.9. I'll take that too. Fixed. Perfecto. Everything needs to have a little bit of power. Yeah, just cruising down the highway, 65, 70 miles an hour at 13.5 air fuel ratio, which is perfect for a carbureted car. And it just drives so nice. It's got plenty of throttle response. There's no hiccups, no hesitation, no nothing. It does everything it's supposed to do. Victory. Alrighty guys, well, I think the Chevelle is finally happy and going to stay running with its new Vortec 350. You know, it probably makes 300 horsepower, but it makes way more torque and even more power than the 283 that this car used to have. So it'll be a good mountain car up where my sister lives in Georgia. And she'll be here in a couple weeks, so I think I might want to go get this thing all detailed up and make it all pretty and shiny for her, and you know, make it presentable. So I'm gonna head on down to the car wash and go wash this baby up. But thanks for watching, guys. I mean, this video, even the first 2 episodes on this car had its ups and downs, but I think we're finally good. So, time to go wash this thing and get ready for the next project. Yeah. I was gonna say the Chevelle sounds pretty good, doesn't it? But nope, that's the next project. It is in need of much attention, and in the next episode, you'll see why.
Shotgun on them cold fall nights. He'd pass me the light and say, hold it right. 2 rifles, 1 cooler, a bond built strong. Didn't say much, but the silence was long. He taught me how to breathe, taught me how to be still. Now make me still, just trying to not feel. Sometimes I started just to hear it breathe, but the engine don't roar, it just grieves with me. I grip that wheel like I'm holding his hand, but that empty seat breaks me again. His truck still sits there like a damn headstone. I ride, I cry, but it don't bring him home. Wore his old camel just to smell him again. His flash still tucked in the glove with a pin. Last note he wrote said, gone hunt and be back soon. But God took him early one cold afternoon. Mama says sell it, says it's just metal now. But that truck's got his soul, I won't let it down. I still wax the hood, still sweep out the bed like I'm cleaning up for a ghost that ain't dead. Sometimes I started just to